Messianic Faith with Rabbi Andrew Howard. Dr. Hal and Barbara Miner and Rabbi Andrew on prophecies of Psalm 22.
And there is an overall lack in the traditional body of believers, a lot of misunderstandings. Would you agree, Hal? A lot of misunderstandings relating to the Scriptures because the Jewishness, in many cases, has been robbed from the way the Scriptures are being taught in today's church movements.
Absolutely.
And this is one of your specialties, is it not?
Yes.
That you teach these things and you're trying to restore the Jewishness of the faith, am I correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you give our viewers some examples?
Well, let me give you one, and I'll try to do it as briefly as possible because there's so much to it. Many Christians for centuries have struggled with why would he, on the cross, one of his last few words, be that, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? If he is who he says he is, how can he say that? If he is, as Jewish people have always understood, that the Torah is God himself, that God himself wrote the Torah, and God on the cross is the one who wrote the phrase, I will never leave you or forsake you. Okay? Now, how can he say, well, what you have to realize is that he taught as a rabbi throughout the whole New Testament. You need to understand rabbinic teaching styles to know what Yeshua was up to, what he was doing. And one of the things that they did, because you have to remember, in those days, it wasn't until 1,000 years after Yeshua that chapters and verses had numbers on them. You couldn't say, open to Isaiah 53.
No, you opened to a scroll.
You had to open to Isaiah, and then I'll give you a primary lead phrase that will lead you to that, okay? Like if I were to say to you, oh, say, can you see, as if it didn't have a title. You know what I'm telling you to do is to repeat the national anthem, right? Okay. So when Yeshua yells out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? He's talking to those people below who know what he's doing. He's talking to the Apostle John. He's talking to his mother. He's talking to whoever else might have been there at the foot of the cross at the time. And as a rabbi, he was doing rimacing, which means hinting. And he was telling them to repeat from memory, as they were perfectly capable of doing, repeat from memory Psalm 22. Because Psalm 22 begins with the very phrase, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? That's what he was doing. And if you take the time after the show, get your Bible out, go into the Psalms, go into the Jewish Bible, and read Psalm 22, the whole thing, you're going to see phenomenal specific prophecies from they're gambling over my clothes, they pierced my hands and my feet, the exact definition of what happens to someone physiologically when they go through the crucifixion process.
He was living out the word.
That was written by David 1,000 years before the crucifixion. And he was telling people, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? So read it. From memory, repeat it. And you will know nobody's forsaken. This is exactly the way the Father and I set this out to begin with billions of years ago, however long ago. It was a cry of victory. It was not a cry of defeat.
It was a way of saying God is in control.
Yes.
What you see happening here is what we planned, what we knew would happen.
And going back to Isaiah 53, being wounded for our transgressions, being bruised for our iniquities, the sins of humanity were being thrust upon him because Mashiach, I think you would agree, was sinless.
He was the sacrificial lamb, just as the sacrificial lamb that we acknowledge at Pesach, at Passover.
And which is a perfect lamb without blemish or defect.
Right.
Yep.
So
it saves us from the angel of death.
And in type and shadow, Yeshua had become that Passover sacrifice, even sacrificed at the Passover itself.
Right.
At that very time of year that we still celebrate as Jewish believers.
Exactly.